Hi everyone, my name is Vess Rusev and this is episode number 18 of the East Auckland Properties Show. Welcome back to the show, welcome back to Duncan King Law Offices and hi again to Kristine. Last time we covered the different title types that we have in New Zealand. Today we're going to focus on cross leases. So what is specific about cross leases?
Yeah, so first thing, we'll just do a quick recap in terms of cross leases. So the concept behind a cross lease is quite unusual, and only in New Zealand, this idea that we share the land with a neighbour or perhaps many neighbours actually.
Yeah.
And then you've got a lease on the title that gives you exclusive use and occupation of your house. Okay, there may also be other rights, exclusive rights, which give you the use of your garden. And the idea is, if you're sharing the land, you really don't want to share too much with your neighbour. So this lease arrangement means that they can't just come into your house, use your kitchen or use your deck for a barbecue or something like that. Because it's an unusual title arrangement, it does actually require a bit of care. So my thought today is giving you some practical tips. If you're a buyer looking at cross leases, what I look at when I'm a lawyer, when I start to investigate things. Okay, so the first thing we want to think about, if you've got a lease for your house, it's a defined area, okay? Because the lease says you get to occupy your house. That defined area is actually marked out on the title. Okay, so the second page, it's a bit of a hint that you know you're looking at a cross lease, is that the second page of the title will have a little plan.
Yes.
And you will see actually the outline, or what we call the footprint of the property marked out on the plan. And the lease says you're allowed to occupy that space. What's really interesting about cross leases is that if anyone alters that, okay, because effectively what you've done is you've breached this agreement you've had with your neighbour to only occupy this much of the property because you've expanded your house. It's what we call a title defect, okay? And it can be a big problem in New Zealand.
If you put a carport, is that a...
That's really interesting. So because it was happening so much. Okay. You know, everybody loves a renovation. They'll just, knock up a carport. Okay, so we actually think about two types of defects on cross leases. What we'd, I think, say sort of technical defects and then quite significant defects. Okay, so significant defects, the ones that can cause really big problems with either your resale or your bank, is alterations that are attached and enclosed. Okay, so imagine the best one to think about is you've suddenly decided you need a fourth bedroom, you just whack on a bedroom, it's clearly attached to the main house and enclosed. A carport, however, might be just in the garden. As long as there is an exclusive use area, okay, then it's just what we call a technical breach. It should be shown on the plan, but hey, it's not going to cause too many problems in terms of your lending and then maybe on sales, okay? But it's those big breaches. So first thing is looking at that footprint. So you think, how do I do that? Okay, one of the great ways of doing it is looking on the Auckland Council website. They've got the GIS viewer. You can see aerial images. You can see the footprint, okay? The other thing to think
I'll leave the link of GIS.
Perfect. The other thing to think about is it's not just a flat plan. Okay, so the idea is that it can affect spaces that have also moved up. So I had one recently and they put a second story underneath. Still a defect because it was enclosed and attached despite being underneath, and the footprint aerially looked the same. Okay, moving on from there, I mentioned exclusive use areas. Some of the old cross leases don't have them, which, to be honest, do you really want your neighbour coming over into your garden to use it? Not really.
Can you tell that only by reading the title or have a look at the title?
Yeah, you do need to see the title. And unfortunately, the way we used to be allowed to correct cross leases, we were allowed through our title office to layer them. So it really is an exercise for you and your lawyer and working with the agent to make sure you've got all the title documents, because we really want to see that that garden is for you. But again, there is a big portion of cross leases where there is actually no exclusive use area, so your neighbour could technically just use your garden. Okay? And it can be quite expensive to get that fixed. Okay.
So very often I have the question, okay, if it's a cross lease, can I paint the house different color? Do I have to use the same insurance company? Or why some of the cross leases are fully fenced, others no fencing?
So in terms of the fencing, that usually comes down to what we've been talking about, that exclusive use area. Because if you imagine you've got the exclusive use, it usually then enables you to block off that exclusive use area. In terms of painting, great question. What that comes down to is actually what the lease says. So it's a registered document And guys, the best way to think about it is it's almost like the rules, okay, of how you need to interact with your neighbour. They can sometimes say don't paint a different colour. Sometimes they even say you're not allowed pets.
Okay.
Because we've had cross leases for quite a while and our thoughts on how to be neighbourly as such have changed over the years, it's really important that you always read that lease and have your lawyer read it for you as well to actually understand what will the rules be when you're engaging with your neighbour.
Yeah.
Okay, because we don't want you to buy it and you suddenly find out you can't even paint your own house, or some of them say you're not allowed to make any internal alterations without your neighbour's consent. Imagine if you just had someone really grumpy next door who hated your colour scheme. You know what I mean? So that's why I've always said with cross leases, it's worth being careful. It's an expensive purchase and we don't want you stuck with a grumpy neighbour who doesn't let you change anything.
Absolutely. So what's the best process? So I go out, I attend open homes, I find a property that I like.
Yeah.
And I know that it's a cross lease. So what's the next step for me?
I think the first step, guys, don't freak out.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with cross leases. It's more just appreciating what they are and making sure that you're informed before you make that purchasing decision. So the next step after not freaking out is get hold of your lawyer ASAP. Email them a copy straight away, text them, call them, whatever your deal is with your lawyer, but get them looking at it and make sure they look at every document for you, okay? Because we just want to make sure that it is what you expect and that you understand these rules. The other thing I would say is if your lawyer does identify a problem, and sometimes we do find them, we've got a lot of situations where alterations are legal. I mentioned your extra bedroom.
Yeah.
Council might know about it, so it's legal for council purposes, but if it hasn't been corrected on your title, it's not legal for title purposes. My advice to you is be really careful about taking on someone else's problem. It can be quite expensive to fix a title problem on a cross lease, starting $10,000 and moving up from there, because
so it was consented by the council, but not on the flats plans.
Exactly. Okay. And a lot of people just say to me, "Oh, Kristine, it's legal. Council knows about it."
Yeah.
But it is a title defect, and the one thing banks really care about these days is titles. So we need to make sure it's in order.
Okay, cool. Okay, I think that was a very good advice. So next time we're gonna cover
unit titles.
Okay, thank you, Kristine. Thanks for your time, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.